and then it's gone. Crazy. But man, it's crazy. Like I was talking to them. I was talking.
Hard point. Enemy personnel at the hard point.
One shot on me.
Enemies inside the perimeter. Compromised. Security confirming next hard point. Stand by.
Moving.
But yeah, even given the other
Location updated. Capture the hard
An
point.
all-knowing
Enemies inside
God.
the perimeter.
created a world in which there was no sin. God decided to create the world with sin.
Fast hands
And so
online.
that makes God.
This God would make sense to exist.
Enemy
given
personnel at the hard point.
So let me ask you. This is what I think is kind of silly, and I hope one day. You really think God?
Hard point compromised.
Parker's
Secure the
position was
area.
super good, and he's just gonna stop existing. You really think that's gonna happen? 'Cause that's not.
Thank you for the
gonna happen.
mariachi, I appreciate it. Well, I mean, it couldn't necessarily reflect upon that if it's not logically possible, right? Do you think that it's possible for there to be a 10-sided triangle?
No.
Yeah, so is the conscious entity that has a 10-sided triangle gonna, like, someday, thank you for the subscription, I appreciate it, be like, oh my god, I made this and Parker discounting it, therefore it's gonna out of position. No, it's a contradiction. It's impossible to exist.
No, 'cause a 10-sided. Yeah, exactly. That's not gonna exist. It'll never.
Yeah,
exist
so
in
you're
the
telling me that there can be a
But
God
it
that's all
wasn't
good and not
exist-
all good at the same time. That's the same thing.
I told you from the beginning that the Bible explicitly says that God has good. He controls good and evil. He controls good and evil. He controls both sides.
Yeah, so why can't God control evil so that it doesn't exist to this degree?
Don't you think that would mean that he has a reason behind it?
Yeah,
is
so
real?
what would be the reason here, right?
Well,
So you're
first
saying
of
that it's
all-
not. You're saying that the only reason that would be justifiable is if it was necessary, right? But you already told me the condition was that it was not
Why
necessary.
did
So
you
are you going to hold the
allow-
position of a necessitarian, right? You think that everything that it happens is a necessary to occur?
Enemies inside the perimeter.
So, like Jesus' death, see, he is God in the flesh. That's the claim, okay? Why would he allow that suffering to happen to him unnecessarily? Why would he go through the suffering of the human body for no reason?
There wouldn't be a reason for this. You want to know why?
Why?
Because unnecessary suffering wouldn't be entailed given an all-knowing, all-powerful, all-good God. So, right, we can't hypothesize a contradiction here, my guy.
So
You can't explain a contradiction.
I don't think you're getting the question. The unnecessary suffering that, obviously he wasn't raped or anything like that, but he was killed. He was killed in a very brutal way, and in his case, it was totally unnecessary. So it should really beg the question: why would God go through that as a human being if it was unnecessary?
Dude, this is all presupposing the belief and trying to ignore the contradiction. I don't know what this has any relevance to.
Repeat the contradiction again, because
Yeah, the contradiction is that unnecessary suffering exists given an all-knowing, all-powerful, all-good God. You've already agreed with me that unnecessary suffering is bad. So how can something that's bad be entailed by an all-good being?
I think Jesus dying on the cross and what they did to him was bad, but it's justified because through that came the redemption of all humanity.
I understand. Thank you for the handout. I appreciate it. You would argue that's a necessary condition for some ultimate good. We just told you that it's not necessary. We just agreed that it's not necessary, right? So if it's not necessary, then you can't make an argument that if that's something that is necessary is then, you know, justified.
But
Because that's
see,
not
the
going
way
to
you
argue against
set it
this
up, no.
unnecessary suffering.
No,
You're just
'cause you
arguing that
asked-
necessary suffering is justified.
Because that's assuming that this type of suffering equates to the one you brought up earlier of a thin needle and then a thick needle.
Yeah,
Though
so
that-
what's going to be the distinction here? Because I see both of them to be unnecessary
because
suffering.
that's the thin and thick needle, especially if it's giving
Oh, we got one shot
the
back
person
there.
getting injected the same amount of whatever vaccine they're getting. If it's applying the same amount of vaccine, and the only difference is just one's bigger for no reason, that is totally unnecessary. Now, I'm not gonna, God's choices. I never said that God's choices were unnecessary. If
That's
he
exactly what you
allows-
said. That's exactly what you said.
No, I didn't. When did I say God's choices were unnecessary?
Yeah, that's what we said earlier. Because you told that's the entailment of your video. Thank you for the hand art. I appreciate it. You said that God could have. Thank you for the hand art again, Rose. That it was logically possible for God to create a world in which there are human beings that have free will but choose not to sin. Thank you for the hand art. I appreciate it. So the only distinction between these two universes, thank you for the hand art. I appreciate it, is that there's no sin in one and there is sin in the other one. They both still have free will. They both still have the ultimate good, right? So again, given the fact that the only distinction is that it doesn't have free will, I mean, it doesn't, no, not that it doesn't have sin, then it would have entailed that God would pick a world without sin, right? Because it wouldn't be necessary. Sin
Would
isn't
this
necessary.
world that you're talking about even have the ability or option to sin?
Yeah, they have the ability to sin, but they choose not to.
Okay, so what I'm trying to tell you is that that's still possible, but God could, that is still possible, but they would still have
So
to
it's
be
not necessary. If you're saying it's possible, then it's not necessary
No,
for there to
because
be
the
sin.
second-
Thank you
because
for the
the
hand art. I appreciate it.
because in a universe where unlimited possibilities exist, once they decide to sin, this no longer works. What you're setting up here, it no longer works because the moment they decide to sin, it breaks the whole structure of this world that
No,
you set up.
that's not relevant to when we're talking about whether or not a God's going to create the universe or not, right? God's all-knowing, all things considered for this God. This God knows exactly what's going to occur in the universe given the fact that this God creates it. So I don't know why you keep bringing this up as like, oh, it's already happened, we can't do anything about it. We're talking about God creating it,
Oh
dude.
my God. How did
You in a
think-
very intelligently way made it so that I can't argue anything to the contrary because you're just quoting things that I supposedly said in the past, but completely out of context.
I'm
What
not.
I'm
What am I
saying-
doing out of context? Trust me, I will change it if that's the case. But that's
What
literally
I'm
what you said.
saying is that
Like, don't
suffering-
literally. I don't want you to come in here and gaslight me. Tell me what I'm saying that's wrong about what you said, or like I don't know what to tell you, man. Because you
Because
can't
what-
just
because
say
what
I'm just like straw manning your position without telling me more.
Because when I try to say that Jesus' suffering was necessary, you're saying that no longer works because in the past I said that God could have made a world where everything was without sin. That
Yeah,
is
these
true.
are
God could have
two
done
different
that.
points. These points are independent of each other, right? They have nothing to do
Yeah,
with each other.
then why did you bring that up when I said that about Jesus?
Because I was going back to the original point because you brought that up as a pivot. You understand that, right? Like, I didn't at all bring that up. I already told you that I knew that that's necessary suffering. That has nothing to do with what we were saying. And then I went back to the point that we were referencing earlier. 'Cause again,
Well, then I guess back to the first question about being gay, being immoral. That, with all the background that you've heard already, like I told you, I have the ability to see that two men loving each other is totally possible. And I know that like they can have something that I can't come in there and say, I can't come in there and deny it for them. I can't do that. And you brought up some good points about the adoption. However, this God that I believe in for reasons that I'm not going to get into on this slide because there's not enough time for, I have faith in it. And you know, I have faith to know that he does love all of humanity,
Oh my God.
including gay people, but for some reason he says it's wrong. That's all I know, and because of that, I will say it's immoral. I will never.
So do you want to respond to the contradiction? Because again, like you can't say that God's gonna have these feelings or attitudes about this if God doesn't exist, right? The God that you're referring to.
Sorry, can you repeat the contradiction again, man?
Yeah. So unnecessary suffering cannot be entailed given an all-knowing, all-good, all-powerful God. Right? Because unnecessary suffering is bad. The only way you can justify suffering is if it's necessary. Given this God.
Right, but I just said that the suffering in this world is necessary.
All suffering is necessary, but you just argued to me that there's a logically possible world where God created human beings that have free will but choose not to sin. So this reality doesn't
No,
have sin.
but that clearly didn't happen.
No. Is it logically possible though?
Good
Did
shit,
you miss when I
GG's.
started calling? No, look. Sorry, I'm off.
Okay, man.
Yeah.
Alright, you just left. Alright. Okay. Alright, well, I'm going to go into the next person. If you like the content, make sure to follow me if you haven't already. Tap the screen if you want to see some more debates. Let's try to get to
Steamrolling.
200k likes real quick. I'll send out to more people. I appreciate everyone. But yeah, let me go into the next person, y'all.
You hear me?
Yeah, what's up? How old are you?
Yeah, I'm 33. I'm old.
Do you think that being gay is immoral?
From a religious circumstance, yeah.
Or do you hold the religious view?
Yeah, I am religious. You could say
Okay.
that.
So how do you know that your religion is correct to infer that being gay is immoral because your religion is correct?
Yeah, I'm Muslim, by the way. And could you repeat the question?
Yeah, so how do you know that the Quran is right in describing what's right and wrong?
Yeah, how could I know the Quran is right? You know, look, my belief, like I believe that my opinion on the religions in general, it's more of faith. It's faith-based.
Okay, how do you define faith?
Like something you believe in, and you believe it's true, and you follow it, and you dedicate your life and your lifestyle to it.
Okay, so anything
So
you
it's
just believe in?
basically a way of life. Yeah, what?
Anything you believe in?
Yeah.
Okay,
basically.
so like what's gonna be the reason why you believe then? Like do you have a standard of evidence or do you just hold the belief because you feel like believing it?
Yeah, I have evidence, but my evidence could apply and, let's say, convince me. I'm not supposed to convince everyone. So I may give you the evidence and you may find it not valid. Though,
Okay, so would you like to do so?
maybe, no problem if you like to. Like my evidence for Islam, like I was not like Muslim all my life. I used to be a communist for a big part of my life. So as a communist, I didn't believe really in religion for a while. Then I started reading about religions, and as a sociologist, I wanted to know why people believe in religions. Yeah, some of the comments, just real quick, some of the comments saying communism isn't a religion. Yes, communism isn't a religion, but there is a big part of the communist, let's say, writers and scientists and scholars of communism, they don't believe in religion for a lot of reasons, saying that religion could cause people suffering and could it harm them more than it benefits them. Yeah, and I used to agree with that for a big part. But back to my thing, when I started reading about religions, I had this feeling that because of reading in the science, it didn't say really how did the universe start. That was the starting point. Like religion didn't say it. Like I'm saying, like science could not really explain how universe did start. So it had to be started by something, like this Big Bang theory, the evolution
That's a
theory.
false notion. So like this is gonna be what's called the God of the Gaps fallacy. So you're inferring just because there's not an understanding of this that it means that it's God. So let's go back into history and let's apply the same sort of logic, right? there was a point in time in which we didn't know how the cycle of rain operated, the cycle of water on the planet. Before that happened, like severe weather events that would occur, should we just infer that that was God's wrath?
I would give you a simple answer. When the science come and really give a pure evidence, like a fact about the universe, how did it start, and there is no God, and there is no even a small, minute percentage of a God existence, I'd stop believing in religion. It's basically like
That's
this.
an unbelievable standard of evidence to hit because it's not possible given a scientific view. Right? Science isn't going to disprove God. What would disprove God would be argumentation or logic. Like logic, that's what I'm
No,
referring to.
the science
Like if
could.
there's a contradiction, that would be
Yeah, I
disproving of
know
God.
science can't. Look, science can't disprove God because God exists. But
That's not the reason.
that's my reason.
Science right now can't disprove the fact that there's some sort of oven on Alpha Centauri. So I
What's
believe that
that?
there's an oven on Alpha Centauri right now. Okay?
What's
Science
the-
can't disprove that right now.
What's the thing you said? I don't. My English is not the first language.
Oh
so-
yeah. Let's just say that there's a hammer. There's
Yeah.
a hammer on Alpha Centauri, right? I believe that that's the case. Okay. Science can't disprove that. Therefore, it's true.
Yeah, I get your point. But what I mean is when science gives like evidences for how did the universe start, how did the human creation started, stuff like this.
Wait, just because there's
and
not an answer for it now does not infer that yours is correct. That's the whole point of the
I'm not
argument here.
saying that mine's. I told you before. It's a faith circumstance. So
Yeah,
either
so if
you
it's going to
believe
be
in it
based
or you
upon
don't.
faith, I can ask a question, right? What's going to distinguish this view from, say, me deciding to believe that Stewie Griffin created the universe through a temporal loop?
Yeah, anyway, it's your opinion. No problem with that.
Okay. What's going
I don't have to believe in it.
distinguish this between me thinking that 12-sided circles can exist?
Don't give a shit.
Nothing?
But the problem
So
is-
your view is going to be just as justified as me holding the view that 12-sided triangles can exist?
No, not really. Because here,
So what's going to
there
be
is,
the distinction?
here is like some evidence that a circle can't have like a, like you said. It basically can't.
You're
It's
saying
proven,
you're saying a
easily
triangle
proven.
can't have that y because of logic. So if you're saying that logic exists, right? Let's apply that to this God. Do you believe that God is all-knowing, all-powerful, all-good?
All-knowing, all-powerful, yes, but all good, how do you define that?
He always does good.
From whose perspective?
God.
Like from his perspective, he always done good?
Yeah, internally speaking.
Yes. But
Okay.
maybe humans can't understand what he's doing, so sometimes they say he's not doing good.
So you would just say we don't have the capacity to understand whether or not this is like some sort of necessary condition or something. Or something.
We can't always understand what God do.
Okay, so can I ask you a question? Do you think that God has free will?
What do you mean by free will?
I would just say has the ability to choose otherwise without someone like dictating that, like another actor.
So his actions is not judged by anyone.
No, he just has the ability to make choices.
He has the ability to make choices. Yes. Look, we don't have enough information about God, but because he created the universe and he said that he did and nobody before him came, and there's no God but him, there's nobody who can affect his judgment. So basically, yes.
So God is
He
free
does
will.
have free will.
Can God do evil?
Can God do evil? How do you define evil?
It's just going to be defined by the view that you hold.
So,
Can God do evil in God's own terms of evil?
in his terms of evil, no, he does not do evil.
He
to
can't
people.
do evil, or he can do evil, he just chooses not to.
He has the ability to do everything from the Islamic perspective.
Okay, so he can do it, he just chooses not to. Is there a logically possible world in which
He
God
could
can-
hurt people. He could hurt them because
for
they
sure.
disobeyed.
For sure. Is there a
If
logically
you're gonna
possible?
say this is evil, so maybe.
Is there a logically possible world in which God can create humans that have free will but decide not to do evil?
In Islam, it said that God, like in Islam, it says basically, if humans stop sinning, God will banish them, then creates a new world, which people sin and repent to Him. So God's basically you have to always repent to God, no matter what your sin is.
That doesn't answer my question. Can God create a world in which humans have free will but choose not to sin?
That's not possible.
Not possible?
He can, but it's not possible.
That doesn't make any sense. He can
Like,
do something, but it's not
how
possible. That's
could
going to be a
people-
contradiction.
Like,
Because
how
if you're
could he
implying that you
because
can do
it's
something, that would be
contradiction.
implied. Wait, hold up. If you're implying that you can do something, that would be saying that it's possible.
He can do everything. I told you before.
He can
So-
do it. It's not possible.
He's not gonna do it.
Okay, so he can do it. Okay, so again, so God can create a world in which there is free will, but there's no sin.
Yes.
Okay.
He can
So
do
given
everything.
the fact that God can create a world in which there's free will, but there's no sin, we would identify, since there is sin in relation to free will, that there is unnecessary suffering. Why? Because if God could have chose otherwise to not create the suffering, yet God still chose to create this, given the fact that we see this within reality. So since that's the case, we cannot possibly say God is all-knowing, all-powerful, all-good, because God cannot be all-good, all-knowing, all-powerful, and entail a universe in which there's something that's bad, aka unnecessary suffering.
Not really, because God gave us the ability to choose not to do the bad thing.
Yeah, I understand that.
it's our problem,
But we
not
live in
his
a world in
problem.
which okay, I'll ask you a question then. So if I have a button right in front of me, that if I click this button, it's going to create a simulation where there are two different people that have subjective experiences like me and you, and one of them utilizes their own free will to throw the other one into a room and torture them after I told them not to, but I knew that they would do this if I clicked the button. Am I responsible for what occurs if I click the button the same way the person who tortured them is responsible?
No, if you're a human, because you're a human, you're responsible. But God is different than us. He's not the same.
Oh, I just want you to answer my question, right? So you can give me the distinction in terms of the characteristics after, but would you like to respond to my analogy here?
So could you repeat the analogy? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so there's a button right in front of me. If I click this button, I know that it's going to create a simulation where there are two different people. One of them will utilize their own free will to throw the other one into a room and torture them for 100 years. So thank you for the hat and mustache. I appreciate it. I know that this is going to happen, given the fact that I click the button. If I click the button, do I have any responsibility for what occurred?
Because you're a human, yes. You have the responsibility.
Okay, so what's going to be the distinction about me being human and God being God that implies that I have responsibility, but God cannot have responsibility?
Yes. It's basically a simple answer. Because God, we don't know everything that God is doing or how he thinks or why he does some stuff, because we can't always get the answers in the time we want. So when we see an earthquake or let's say a war or a massacre to people, and we come up and say, why did God let this happen, right? So it's a simple question. Why does God let this?
What's your definition of responsibility? I think this is going to get us into something that's not really necessary. What's your definition of responsibility?
It depends on the what it's meant to be. Like there's a responsibility for your actions. So everything you do, you're responsible. Or everything you say or do, or stuff like this, you're responsible of the consequences of it.
Not necessarily. I would say my definition of, I mean, given that definition, you would say God has responsibility. But like my definition of responsibility is that you intentionally engage in an action, knowing the consequences, right, or having knowledge of some of the consequence that occurred, all right, or was going to occur. So given the fact that that's going to be the definition, right? Either of our definitions would imply that God has responsibility. So can you describe to me how God does not have that responsibility?
Well, I guess we're going too far from the
Does God take
the
actions?
subject.
Does God take actions?
He does stuff.
He does,
Yeah.
right? So you said that if you take actions, you have responsibility for those actions. God took actions, therefore God
Yeah,
has
my
responsibility for those actions.
look. Just wait a minute. My definition applies for humans. God is different. 'Cause
Yeah,
he's God.
so what's the
I
distinction
can't
between
judge
God
him
and
with my
humans?
morals.
No, what's
I
the
can't
distinction
judge him
between
with my
God?
morals and my
Wait,
definition.
responsibility
He's-
is not about you judging them. It's an implication of given an action, right?
Look, God is
Or an
different. We
entailment
can't
given an
apply.
action.
We
So,
can't
so
apply this for him
why?
because he's God. He's different.
What about God being God that implies that God cannot have responsibility? Because again, I already
Even
identified
he's different.
God. Wait, hold up. God engages in actions, therefore God has responsibility. You said humans engage in actions, therefore they have responsibility. So again, I can
Yes,
just imply
humans,
the same
not
definition
God.
to God. Wait, so what's the
Humans.
distinction? Does God not engage in action?
I don't know much about him.
Okay, God doesn't engage in action, y'all.
We don't know. He
We don't
does
know if
stuff,
God, we
but
don't. Yeah, we don't know if God engages in action.
what do you mean by engaging in actions? Like doing things?
Yeah.
Yeah, he does. He
So if
created
God
the
created,
world.
God engaged in an action. Thank you for the hint. I appreciate it.
He created the universe. He created humans. He created the earth. You know, created a lot of stuff. So he does stuff. He sent prophets. He made religions. Yeah, he does stuff. But the thing is, because humans have a free will to choose the good between the good and the bad, they are the one who are responsible for the good or bad things that are happening. So when war happens, it's the responsibility of bad leadership or countries or fascism or ideologies. It's not the responsibility of God because he gave us free will. God gave us free will for a reason. He didn't give it to us just for that. He gave it
Yeah.
for us for the reason. For
Thank you for that,
reason.
mustache. I appreciate it. You understand all of these characteristics apply to the scenario that I brought up with the simulation, right? Like I created the beings in the simulation with free will as well, but you said I was still responsible for their action because I'm human. So the
Yes.
only distinguishing factor is that one's human and one's God. There's no actual reason why there's a difference. It's just simply because they're two different things, right? That's not going to give us a principal distinction here. That's going to infer that it doesn't apply to God, right?
But
So
we're
this is
getting
going to be
we're getting
this is
too
gonna-
far from the subject, the main subject.
No,
of
this
the life.
is relevant. Why? Because this determines whether or not God exists. And the reason why you think that being gay is immoral is because your God exists. So if we can infer that there's
That's
a
one of the
contradiction,
reasons.
hold up. If we're gonna
That's one of the reasons.
we can go into the reasons after, but what I'm saying is that if we can infer that this God does not exist, we can also infer that your claim that being gay is immoral is not the case, because if God does not exist and that's the reason why being gay is immoral to you, right? Well, then that's gonna
I gave you
invalidate
the answer like simply. It's a
Yeah.
faith thing. No matter what simulation, no matter what examples, no matter how you try to give me, maybe any kind of stuff you do, I'm not gonna be convinced. I just
so
don't
so
believe
even
in
if there's a
God.
logical contradiction, you wouldn't be convinced
There
that
is
God
not.
doesn't exist?
There is not. You can't.
No,
give me.
even if there was a logical contradiction, because I think there is one.
It's
But
impossible
even
to
if
be.
there,
There is no one who can.
okay, are you even
me-
willing to engage in any argumentation? You're just simply gonna say there's no argument, even though I'm even providing you one. You're
Yeah,
not even
about the
responding
God
to it.
thing, because I told you it's a faith thing. It's hard to, because
Yeah, I
can't
understand,
prove
but
him.
that's not faith. That's confirmation bias. That's what it
Yeah,
is. Like regardless of the evidence that's
no matter
provided
what you
to
call
you,
it.
yeah,
Yeah, no matter
regardless
what
of the
you call it.
evidence that's provided to you, you're not gonna change your position.
It's you give no evidence. You give hypothetical thinking. You give
No, I gave you a
ideas.
contradiction, right? I gave you a contradiction. I gave you the entailments of the different characteristics that you were referencing.
Yeah, but your references cannot really work because you're talking about a God, not a human, and
No
things
way.
you
Oh my
apply.
gosh. Hold
You're
up. Give me
applying
one
for
second.
yeah, no problem. Like what? I didn't call anyone slow. Some of the comments is saying. Yeah, maybe it is responding to.
Hey, I have to go real quick. There's something that happened in my apartment where my roof is leaking, so I'll be right back. Yeah, y'all, I don't know what's gonna happen right now. I have to message them because it literally is leaking again. This is like I don't know why it's still leaking. It makes no sense. Do y'all hear it? Bruh, that's so annoying. All right, well, I'm gonna call them. I'll be right back. I'll let y'all know. All right, have a great night, everyone. I might not be back on, y'all. Peace out, y'all.
Okay,
But
so-
you can't, unfortunately, force every other species to survive on your
Holy shit, dude. How brainwashed are you? I never said we have to force dogs to go vegan. That's ridiculous. I never said that. All I'm saying is we don't have to eat meat. I haven't done it in 5 years. People in the comments haven't done it for all their entire lives. There are people that I know of that have never eaten meat at all. How do you explain that? And by the way, why does the science show that anybody can go vegan? It's perfectly suitable for anybody to go vegan. Why is that so impossible for you to comprehend? Humans are omnivores and used to require meat. No, we don't have to eat meat. We never had to eat meat. Ever. No logic in his argument. Yeah, he was also transphobic. There's nothing wrong with being trans, by the way. Your logic's failed. What logic has failed? Please explain that to me. You need supplements to survive. No, I don't need supplements to survive. But by the way, guess who does? You. Did you know that we have to inject B12 in cows?
They're taking B.
I know many people that are eating supplements that are meat eaters. What do you say about that? It's not, no, stop saying that meat wasn't for our intelligence. No, people keep starting this lie. Stop it. We didn't evolve to eat meat that made our brains better. No, meat does not make your brain bigger or smarter. That's fucking ridiculous. If it did, lions would be the smartest, biggest brained animals ever, but they're not. They have very tiny brains per their body mass. So, stop saying that meat made our brains bigger. That's false. Absolutely false. Most of the world's antibiotics are given to livestock. Exactly. You think vegetarians are just as good as vegans? No. They're just as worse. They're worse. I want to talk about your worldview. Well, sorry, sir, but you did not present an argument, so you're not coming back today. Come back tomorrow with a better argument. Why do we learn to cook meat? Why do we learn to cook plants? See, people forget that we cook plants too. We cooked everything. That's what we do. Oh yeah, he's gonna link an NPR website. The NPR is not a reliable source of information. We need scientific studies that are reliable and point to some actual conclusion. There is no evidence. There's no good evidence that meat is what made our brains better or made us intelligent. In fact, your brain runs on glucose, not meat. There's plenty of research showing that it was the opposite that made us smarter. But go ahead and keep linking studies that actually, you didn't even link a study today. We ate meat. I never denied we ate meat in the past. I know, I understand, and agree that we ate meat. It doesn't mean that we're supposed to. It doesn't mean that we have to. It does, and it definitely does not mean that we evolved to eat it or be smart with it. I asked you about ethic veganism and you said animals feel bad, and that's what I said. They feel pain.
1 minute left.
See, the problem is you can't fathom. See, you're so brainwashed that you think that even if God didn't exist, pain was, it's okay to call somebody pain. It's okay. You literally said to me that it's okay to murder if God doesn't exist. That's how pathetic your ethics is. So what if they feel bad? They don't like it. They don't like it. That's why we don't murder people. Oh my God. Do you not understand what morality is? Are you that lost? Are you that lost? So what? We don't like it. That's why. We don't like it. That's what morality means, is preference. We do not understand what morality.
Capturing Bravo.
It's too time consuming for you to criticize the entire population. Are you kidding me? That is so irresponsible of you. It's not time consuming. It's not cost us consuming. It would cost less to go vegan by far, not just in money, but in resources and in death. Way less costly. Are you kidding me? That's why I'm out here advocating for it, because it's better in every freaking way. Just because you don't like it doesn't mean I can't have to be silenced. You don't have to silence me. So every time you say that, oh, just be quiet. I'm just going to be louder and louder and louder and louder. You're the reason why I do this. People like you who don't care about anything except for themselves, and you're selfish. The fact that we can digest meat is evidence. No, every herbivore can digest meat. Why? Because our stomach acid's low enough to do that. Did you guys know that we can digest metal? Humans can digest metal. And our stomach acids can dissolve metal. That's how low acidity we have. Doesn't mean that we have to eat meat. Doesn't mean just like it doesn't mean we have to eat metal. It means that we don't have to eat it. It means we can eat plants just as fine. Herbivores can't digest meat and remain healthy. Right, that's why we don't get. That's why meat makes us unhealthy. You're proving my point. That's why meat gives us heart disease, cancer, arthritis, inflammatory diseases. This is what the science conclusively shows. In fact, they've done a study. There's the Adventist Health 2 study. There is the Epic Oxford study. There's also the Caldwell-Esselstyn study that showed us that we can reverse atherosclerosis by implementing a plant-based diet. Iron comes from plants: beans, grains, oats, fruits and veggies, greens. They have all the above have iron, plenty of it.